I had no idea that you started off coming out of Rolla. That's interesting. I didn't peg you
Right.
for that. I just had figured you for a lifetime superintendent because you're so good at it, and you've just been doing
Well,
it.
thanks.
You make it look easy, man.
It's not easy. It's difficult, and
No, I said you
I
make it
think
look
it's one
easy.
of the, and I appreciate that. On my jobs, they're unpredictable in construction.
Right on.
You have to constantly manage that. So one of the things that I do as a superintendent is I always ask questions in order to make sure that our team has the right information. A lot of the times when we start building, we have incomplete information or we only have half of the material on site. Those things can ultimately lead to rework on your jobs or they cause stop in the workflow. One big thing that's important on our construction sites is to create that flow of work between the trades and between the handoffs. And in order to create that, you have to plan ahead. You have to get everybody together and make sure that everybody understands the flow of the job, involve everybody, and get their input, which is why lean processes like the last planner, they really work. It's drastically different than when I was coming up, it was push.
Welcome to the EBFC Show, the easier, better for construction podcast. I'm your host, Felipe Engineer Manriquez. This show is all about the business of construction.
Today's episode is sponsored by Construction Accelerator.
The design and construction industries come up with and build great things, but we also build and waste in how we do those things, in our interactions, in our contracts, in our logistics. So what does this do for our bottom line or our next project? The best firms maximize their value by removing that waste and only doing what's essential to the work, what makes them money. Construction Accelerator will train you to see the waste and give your teams the lean tools and experience to remove it immediately. All online. Construction Accelerator is made up of 3 to 9 minute videos that can be watched again and again in the field, at the office, and at home, all broken down by topic. Need to learn pool planning? We have videos on the process, how to set up a room, and how to kick off a team. Need to set up a target value delivery project? We discuss all the aspects of TVD, especially cost. Or maybe you just need to brush up on 5S, well, we have videos on that as well. You can download and print reference materials to use on site to immediately translate watching into doing. Subscribe today at trycanow.com. Let's build an industry, not just a project.
Today's show is also sponsored by the Lean Construction Institute. LCI is working to lead the building industry in transforming its practices and culture. Its vision is to create a healthy and thriving industry that delivers outstanding project outcomes every time for everyone. Check the show notes for more information. Now, to the show. Welcome to the show, Frank Kahn, all the way from South Florida. Beautiful South Florida. Where are you in South Florida today, Frank?
So right now I'm in Doral, Florida. It's just west of Miami. So basically the Miami metro area. It's a little chilly today. It was in the 60s.
Oh,
So
dear.
we got people wearing their fur coats and mittens and everything else. When it drops into the 60s, you get that. But I grew up and was born and raised in Texas in a small town, Wichita Falls, and worked the majority of my career in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then I've recently spent the last 3 years in Florida. But I love Florida. Love working and living life down here in the South Florida. So it's great.
But in that small town you grew up in Texas, is that West Texas, East Texas, the Valley? What do they consider that?
North Texas, so it's Wichita Falls, Texas. And some people call it South Oklahoma, but we don't call it that. So we're still in Texas. It's right there by the Texas-Oklahoma border. And grew up there, have a lot of good friends there, and went off to college in Missouri, University of Missouri, Rolla. So engineering school.
Yeah.
Played baseball there. And that's where I was introduced to engineering, studied civil engineering there, and just kind of got into construction. I thought I was going to be an engineer. I thought that was going to be my background. Ended up working for a civil engineering firm in Wichita Falls, Texas as a surveyor when my daughter was born. And then there was a construction company called Beck, and they were building First Baptist Church. and they needed a field engineer, need to know how to use survey equipment stuff. I said, I can do that. Not really knowing anything about working for a general contractor, just took a shot at it, and really enjoyed being a field engineer and working for the Beck Group, and just learned how buildings come together. And there was some really good superintendents that I worked underneath, kind of showed me the ropes. And as a field engineer, we wore tool belts, we did all the layout, and helped the contractors, properly locate things on the job. And as the equipment advanced and the robotic layout came into the picture, and the use of Revit and BIM technology started coming into the picture, Beck was very Beck adopted that technology pretty quickly, and I got the opportunity to use robotic total station and the Revit models together on one of the first IPD projects in Texas.
Wow.
It was a true IFOA agreement, and the owners really supported Lean and wanted to do the IPD jobs, and so they hired consultants to help us out, and was kind of introduced to it, on that project. And I was very early in my career. I think I was like 25 at that time.
No, just a kid.
And so that technology, BIM and the total stations, it was relatively new, and we didn't really know how to use that to work, to transfer from the computer to the field. But with the way the project worked out, that's a good story, because we figured it out on that job. I worked closely with the BIM guys, and we were able to get the coordinates from the Revit model into the robotic total station, and we just went out there and laid out all of the slab recesses for the restrooms. We were also using prefabricated restrooms on that job. So basically that one job, we had the opportunity to use new technology, implement lean construction practices, which was mainly the last planner system. They did things like cluster groups with the design team, and it was a true IFOA agreement. So that one job kind of got me started on my lean journey, and it was the whole team, the team supported it, and all the way from the owners all the way down through design team, trade partners, and our team as well. So it was a really good exposure to lean and some of these new construction techniques that make things easier and better for us in the industry. So there's a plug for you there.
I like that, man. You plugged it well, Frank.
So, yeah. So now what I think we have to do is, that was about 12 years ago, 10 years ago, that we were doing this stuff, and it was all new. Well, some of the jobs that I've done since then, that we haven't done those kind of things, whether or not it wasn't planned for up front, the funds wasn't there to fund BIM or whatever.
Yeah.
It's almost like, as an industry, we haven't really taken that technology and built upon it, It's not used on every single job site. And I think that's one of the reasons why our industry is slow to adapt to new technologies and new ways of building. So I think that we need to always make sure whenever we use those new techniques that we take them to the next project. And when we use an innovative process or something, that we build on that and take that to the next project. So I think that's what I try to do, in my career, and I think that helps people when they learn something new. You always build on it. It makes you better in the future. I'm a superintendent for NV2A. My name is Frank Kahn, and like Felipe said, I've written several blog posts and things like that on the Lean Builder and the Lean Construction blog. This is my first podcast, so I'm enjoying it so far. Good job, Felipe. And I've done several presentations with the Lean Construction Institute. I'm a member of the South Florida LCI group, as well as the Central Florida group. Also ran the Dallas-Fort Worth lean community of practice for LCI for about 3 years before moving to Florida. Lots of experience as a superintendent in Dallas-Fort Worth and now in Florida, and then about 12 years of experience implementing lean in various different ways on different projects.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. Welcome, man. You're doing a great job too. I thought you were a podcast pro.
I think we did just get off to we just got straight to business, which is what superintendents like to do. You know, we like to get straight to the point.
I like that. So, you got your little notepad and your pencil and you're scribbling and jotting down stuff. It's beautiful. I expected nothing less.
I want to remember some of the things we hit on. I want to remember and share some stories on that kind of stuff.
I think you touched on the sequence of events that led you into construction, which is awesome. But what keeps you in it? What keeps you coming back every day, Frank?
Well, I've got to support my family. You know, my daughter's lives in Texas with her mom, and the South Florida lifestyle. You know, I want to have a boat eventually, so I do want to do well and save money, and to do that, you know, we have to have a job. So, but it's more than a job to me. I enjoy building, and I told somebody one time, I just want to build buildings, and that was in regards to a lot of the paperwork and documentation that superintendents have to do. I said, why do I got to do all this? I just want to go out there and build a building. But what keeps me coming back is just the opportunity to kind of, especially with building hospitals, people need health care, and you kind of feel when you drive past a building that you built, there's a sense of pride there. I take pride in my work, and I want to do a good job. And I think everybody who works in our industry, there's pride there. People say that quality of work has gone down and all of that stuff over the years. I disagree, because I see these guys coming to work every day and they want to do a good job. But I just think that, instead of just saying the quality of work has gone down over the years, we need to ask ourselves, why has that quality of work went down, and how are we managing? Because the guys don't want to. They don't wake up. You don't wake up and go, I'm going to go do bad quality work today. People just don't do that, So they come to work. They want to do a good job. So we've got to ask ourselves, well, why is the quality going down? What's driving that? And maybe you have some input on what you've seen is, why is that quality going down when we all want to come to work and do a good job? Have you seen any issues with that?
It was possible 20 years ago to build a hospital with 16 trade partners, 16 different companies.
Yeah.
And
the walls were square and plumb.
Square and plumb,
right?
And the designers had tremendous amount of experience. Like, I was just, in my early 20s, and most of the people around me were, older than we are now. They were like in their 40s and 50s, and some people in their 60s. And they just had a tremendous amount of experience. And then over time, I've seen more specialization, and I've seen less experienced people as people have left the industry, and not as many new people have come in. So we've had more specialization. We've had less experience. The complexity has increased, and the expectations from clients are still the same. I want my building yesterday.
Right.
All that compounded together creates conditions where people are forced into not ideal situations. I've never seen or met anyone of the thousands of people I've met in being in this industry that woke up and said, I want to do a bad job today, or tried to mess something up on purpose. I've seen, people in the trades, work themselves really hard to put in quality work and to stand back and be proud of it. And I've even seen people in the trades with family members working alongside of them, and them showing, their kids or their nieces, nephews, other relatives, cousins, brothers, sisters, and they want to be proud of what they're doing. They're putting so much time into it, like you are, like we are, and they just want to do well and
get a little bit of appreciation too, even if it's just by themselves for what they're doing. So you think about, like, you just mentioned hospitals, like the last hospital job you did, how many contracts were there roughly?
There was probably 27, and then, you have your specialty contractors. So we probably had 32,
Yeah.
32 different contractors on
32.
that job.
Every time you have another company to come in with that specialization, you're just adding to the complexity. That's another set of people to coordinate to, another thing to go back to potentially the client with, or the designer with. It is that specialization that we've seen. I don't think we encourage people to be a jack of all trades anymore. We encourage people to specialize.
Well, we encourage them to specialize, and then in those, like, even like, say the design team, they have one guy, the architect has one guy that draws the details, right? And he's not the same guy that drew the overall design. So there's a chance for miscommunication there. There used to be drafting tables where everybody would sit down and draft, and you would get, some different work. And now it's computerized, and you have cut and paste details. And like, as a GC, we're constantly getting squeezed. Our margins are low. Same thing with the architects. They're trying to save hours. We're trying to save on general conditions. So all of that stuff kind of goes into the quality of work, from the drawings, the quality of work on the contracts. If you're writing 32 contracts, your company wants to have a boilerplate contract. Well, not every single job is the same. You may need something extra, so we then review those scopes for, completeness. And it's not that things are missed, it's that we try to make a boilerplate contract for every single person, that's on that job. Each project is unique, and we need to treat it that way. That's one of the things about using the same solution from job to job, is the same percentage of general conditions may not apply to this project over here because it's built on the coast or something like that. There's just, each project is unique, and we need to look at it that way and come up with a process that doesn't have us involving more of our time, to figure that out, but just come up with something that where we're not trying to use the same solutions from project to project, that, to kind of think about each one individually. So
we'd known each other, I think, probably for I feel like it's been more than 5 years. The first time.
Yeah, it goes back to the lean conferences and stuff.
Yeah,
where we
way back
did the lean coffees together. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, we just chance put us together at a table, and I noticed then, Frank, and I still see it right now. And you just said it just now. You are a lifetime learner, my friend.
And I appreciate that. On my jobs, they're unpredictable in construction.
Right on.
You have to constantly manage that. And in order to create that, you have to plan ahead, and you have to use, you have to get everybody together and make sure that everybody understands the flow of the job, and just involve everybody and get their input, which is why lean processes like the last planner, they really work. And they work. It's drastically different than when I was coming up. It was push.
What do you mean by push, Frank? For people that are just still young, and maybe they've been on a job or two and they just haven't spent that much time in the planning and scheduling aspect. What do you mean by push?
Right. So I learned how to put a schedule together. It was basically, you put your schedule together, and if you're always a few days behind that milestone or something, then you're doing a good job, right? Because I was basically taught to set the bar high and never be able to achieve it, that you always want to be hitting, right under that bar, and then you have a good schedule and your job's going well.
Mm-hmm.
But that causes us to push, and it causes us to start the activities essentially too early.
Oh.
A lot of jobs.
Your check's in the mail, Frank. I just love that you said that and admitted it. You're one of the first people ever to say that out loud so well.
We start things too early. The CPM schedules that we put together, you have so much information that you can get from those CPM schedules. And I I've never seen anyone show the late starts of activities from those CPM schedules. We always show the early starts, and those with the algorithms in the CPM, you can have early starts, you can have your start date, but it's all based on that critical path management. And we put the schedule together, we see the critical path, and then that's what me as a superintendent, that's what I want to make sure flow of that critical path doesn't get interrupted. The truth is that that's just one critical path that it's showing at that time. So you can have essentially 1,000 different critical paths on the
Yes.
same schedule. It's just going to show you the one that is the longest activities that are linked together. The longest chain of activities is going to be the one that it currently shows you. So you can be working on critical path work and you might get stalled. So a great workaround is, oh, well, we can do this activity over here, and it's not critical path. Well, all of a sudden things get jammed up, and we call it your schedule gets stacked, and you're working on everything the same time, and most of the activities are critical, and then you're fighting fires all day. So some of the things that we try to teach and I try to implement on a day-to-day basis is the last planner system and getting in your pull
Hmm.
planning. To me, when you do those pull plans as a team, you're basically starting from the end and working backwards, and that's very hard to do in the built environment because we don't think that way. So a lot of times there's a lot of coaching involved in those sessions, and you learn how to do it. And then when you have your pull plan for the particular phase, you try to identify the constraints, those things that are going to keep you going. And the pull plan actually allows you to eliminate your float.
Hmm.
And so when you're up there pull planning with your trades, um, a lot of people, a lot of superintendents have a problem because the trade partner might put up there it's going to take him um 17 days to do a task, and that superintendent, no, we've got to get it down. I usually let them leave that 17-day activity in there because if it if they are, some people call it, oh, well, he's sandbagging. I know he can finish that in 10 days, but he's putting 17 days up there. Well, I let him put the 17 days up there because to me that creates some float, okay?
Okay.
And if he does finish it in 12 days or whatever, well, then on the back end, we've already discussed the downstream trade from him, so they're already preparing and getting ready. Because when the trades come on the job, it takes them, 3 or 4 days to get their material and get all that stuff organized and really start work. So I I don't let them, I don't want them to put the wrong durations on the pull
Sure.
plans by any means, but I just don't think you should argue those durations because we are asking for they're the experts. We hire our trade partners, because they are the experts at whatever scope we're hiring them for.
Right on.
So I want to trust I want to trust what they're putting up there on the board. So I try not to argue it, and I coach other superintendents and things not to argue those durations. It's hard to do sometimes, but we really try to make that a point.
If I had to guess, Frank, I would guess that you're probably coaching and mentoring a couple, if not hundreds, of superintendents.
Because each job has different people, and I started doing this about 3 years ago. It was like an aha moment, right? So if I have the same process and use the last planner system from job to job, I have it down,
Yes.
right? I've used it for a long time, so I know how to do it. And when you bring other people on, they may have some of our trade partners or something might have done it on a different job with a GC or something like that. So they may know how to do it and implement that system. And maybe a couple of them have never done it before. So you're The fact is, though, that team has never done it together, so everybody's understanding is different. So I approach it now on the job as we're all going to learn this together, and we're all going to improve the way that we execute the last planner system together. So we start over at square one, each time with not, we don't set our expectations like we're going to gain 30% on the schedule overall right off the bat, because even though I've done it on several different projects, our mechanical guy's done it on several different projects, that doesn't mean we're going to be able to do it well together.
Right.
So we have to, and we don't talk about this, but we really should. We have to talk about how we're going to execute that and together. And so when you start off a job, it takes, maybe 5 to 6 to 10 weeks before you have that synergy where you're all executing the process together. If it even gets to that point where you're actually implementing the whole system. On some jobs, I've only been able to implement the daily huddles or, just do the pull plans and then, just bits and pieces. So you really have to evaluate the team and make that commitment. If you're going to do the entire process of the last planner, you have to make that commitment up front and make sure that you're allowing the team the opportunity to become comfortable with the process before just slamming the whole entire thing, down the team's throats, because that's when people throw their hands up and say, we're not going to do that. We're not going to come to your daily huddles, or we're not going to do our weekly work plans. You have to really evaluate the understanding of the team as a group and not as individuals for it to be able to work. So
No, I like that, Frank. And I just want to give you some feedback. You were on a panel for the Lean Construction Conference last year. And on that panel,
shout out to the Lean Construction blog.
yeah, shout out to the Lean Construction blog, free advertising. No, they're a good, they're a good group of people over there helping to spread some alternative ideas in the industry. And two of my friends were, I had more than a handful of friends, even the moderator, Brian's my friend, Elisa and Josh. And they all told me, they said, in the preparation for the event, because Brian likes to prepare like I do. Shout out to Brian. He's also a Scrum Master. I love that. I love that about him. And my friend said that the things that they heard you talking about in the preparation, like they were able to take that back to their projects and do better. And they said, Frank is like legit. Frank knows what he's doing. You got to talk to Frank. I was like, I know Frank. So the reason I reached out and contacted you, Frank, is under the encouragement of fellow peers of yours, working, in this case, back in the Midwest, closer to your roots. We'll call it North Texas. But they're north. Yeah, they're north of the border.
North Texas.
But we'll just say, Lisa and Josh are working in North Texas Extension, and I had to have you on. And I was an audience participant at that part, Frank, and I thought your approach and how you were answering some of the questions, I knew that you're a good mentor out there. And then I didn't realize that, I look back, you had done quite a few contributions to the Lean Construction blog and with our new friends, the Lean Builders blog. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that you've put out there and what kind of feedback have you gotten from the stuff you shared with the industry?
One of my earliest posts from the Lean Construction blog actually had quite a few views. I kind of spoke about the steps that we forget to implement when we do the last planner system on our projects. And I wrote that one, I think, in 2015, and that was one of the first few articles on their blog, and maybe it has the most views because it's one of the oldest. Not necessarily it's one of the best, but it kind of, I kind of wrote it,
Frank. I like that in you.
As a story. And it was kind of a little bit vulnerable, talking about how sometimes you get frustrated with trade partners and you're trying to push and this and that, and then I had that aha moment where A contractor actually called me out on one of the things that I was doing, and that kind of made me realize, hey, if I'm going to expect our trade partners to be lean and reduce waste on in their activities and find ways to improve their day-to-day activities, then I have to do it, myself, and not close all the ceilings up and threaten to close it up and then get the guys in there to do it when it's not ready, right? Because
Right.
part of being lean is you perform the work when it's ready to perform the work. And if I'm out there in the field and using the drywall trade to motivate the other contractors
Classic
to get their work
superintendent
done
move.
and just close up the walls, then I'm hurting my own project, because that's going to be rework that somebody's going to want to get paid for. So you really have to, if you're going to implement these kind of lean processes, you have to walk the walk. You can't just talk about it. Your actions in the field have to support what you're trying to accomplish.
So when Frank's talking about a superintendent for a general contractor using the drywall trade partner to accelerate things or close ceilings up with like acoustical ceiling tile or hard lid ceilings, drywall ceilings, and walls, the other trades that have to put stuff in those might not necessarily be ready for a myriad of reasons. So often, I saw this in my first 10 years of my career, Frank. I saw this tactic used by multiple superintendents. Like you all go to some secret meeting and you get told like the way to accelerate the job.
They train us. They train us that way. That's Superintendent 101.
Yeah.
Use the drywall to push work.
And I remember on the first job, and I talked about this before, one of my early memories, I remember the framer superintendent just being worried because everybody hated him, like the entire job. And I remember sitting in the trailer after work and hearing him tell the general contractor superintendent that he wanted someone to walk him to his car because it was getting that bad. And this was in a big city where, that kind of stuff happens. Nothing happened to him. He ended up being fine, but it just didn't seem like that was the best way to motivate people. In last planner system, like you mentioned, I've seen a lot of times, Frank, we do a phase pool, which most people that pool plan don't do. It's one of the steps that they skip. You can gain massive amounts of time. Like, it's not uncommon to do a phase pool with a team of folks in design or construction and take months off the schedule. If you do it right. And that's assuming you've made the milestones visible and some other things. So, but you're totally right. Sometimes you can't implement it all, but you can do something. And I like that approach that you have. So that's cool. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to find your article from 2015. I'm going to link it in the show notes, and we're going to drive that even higher than it is now.
There we go. I like that. Free advertisement. I do want to start touching on some of those differences between the push versus pull mentality.
Yeah, please do.
And then what I've realized is the behavior that's needed to execute. Because when you said that foreman was afraid to walk to his car, that should just tell you right there that something in our industry needs to change.
Yes.
We don't want to go to work and be threatened. And then as we have younger people wanting to enter the construction industry, why would they want to come work in construction if we tell them, hey, you're going to work 12-hour days and you might get in a fight? Nobody's going to want to work in construction if we do that.
Yeah, nobody.
So I used the term a while back. I was talking to somebody and said we need to start making construction more like an office job. Well, it's never going to be an office job, but with the new technologies that are coming out and some innovative thinking, we can make the construction industry more more attractive to younger talent, and it doesn't always have to be these 12-hour days. We need to make a better reputation for construction workers. And I think it's going that route. Some companies have realized that, and they talk about work-life balance and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You always have to have that, but at the end of the day, in the field, we're still, especially in Florida, I would say. So I would say the East Coast, and especially down in South Florida, we may be 8 to 10 years behind some of those West Coast ideas, or even 7 years behind, Dallas Fort Worth area in Texas. In order to make things truly better, you have to start focusing on the behavior. One of the things that I didn't do early in my career, I learned all the technical aspects of lean. I read the books, I learned the processes, and I studied them, and I got really good at it. And then when I start executing these processes on my job, it's not working, and they're just not all in on it. And I'm thinking, why? Well, they haven't spent 8 years studying this process, that they don't know what it can do. They haven't seen it work. I wasn't necessarily changing my behavior to match what the process is called for.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have trust and you don't have teamwork, these processes aren't ever going to work. Your team has to feel comfortable bringing up ideas. Your team has to feel comfortable enough to try something new and fail at it, because we get stuck trying out new things because it's going to fail, or we take that to our managers and they go, no, you're not going to use this product because, the architect's, it's not in the specs, and the architect's not going to want to approve it. That we know what's in the specs. We know that stuff works. And then there might be those specs are 20 years old, by the way. They're old and outdated. They never update their specifications. So, if there's a new product or something that's come out that helps us cure the slab, one of my pet peeves is we're still paying, we'll exclude moisture mitigation in our bids, and then we find out, the slab, we need to do moisture mitigation so that our flooring sticks. It's a lot of money. It's anywhere from $5 to $8 a square foot to moisture mitigate your floors.
Mm-hmm.
There's products out there now that are drastically cheaper, $2 a square foot, but you have to apply them when you're pouring the concrete. So you have to be thinking about your floor finishes at that early stage. And we exclude it, and we end up change ordering the owner for it. So, owners could actually save a lot of money on moisture mitigation, with just some lean thinking up front and saying, okay, how can we solve this problem of paying $200,000 on every project to moisture mitigate? Is there anything that can solve this problem and help us save money? Well, yes, there's several products out there that can do that, but you have to commit to spending the money up front, to spending less money up front, knowing that you'll save it on the back end. We're not exactly there yet in the whole process of things. That it can be more risky. So what our industry about passing risk down, and a lot of times we don't want to take that risk on the front end to do something new, and because of the fear of failure. So it's the same thing, in the field. If your guys are comfortable and they trust you, they might try this new technique. But if they're afraid to fail, or you get on to them for failing, they're not going to want to try anything new. So that's one of the behavior issues, I kind of had to change, is to make people feel comfortable with speaking up. Don't just sit there in the meetings and agree and say yes to everything, and then go out in the field and it be completely different. We need to speak up, because us as a group can help solve the problem, as opposed to just agreeing and then the problem still exists out there. The behavior and how to kind of make the team feel comfortable doing that.
I remember sitting in a meeting in a trailer not even 4 years ago, and the plumber was having trouble with something to do with the in-wall installation.
And the painting foreman said, because we had created a space and environment where people could speak up, the painting foreman said, oh, in the last 3 jobs, I saw the plumber do this, and changed, and it made the installation fly by super easy and fast. And then once the plumber foreman heard him describe what it was, he instantly knew it would work. Mm-hmm. And he thanked the guy. The superintendent said, I don't think we would have had this type of exchange if we weren't coming together in this different approach to let people speak up instead of me just having to be the solution giver.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of the things. If you're constantly giving the solutions, you're only going to be as good as that one solution. When you have the input of everybody else, you might have, a mechanical guy could give an idea to the drywall guy, things like that. So we need that on our jobs, and we have to do a better job fostering those kind of environments. It's drastically different from when I started. Just lots of things that push mentality. We've got to do a better job of showing and leading the teams in the field, to communicate and collaborate more often.
So if we've talked about learning, we talked about approaching things with novelty. They're all unique. They're unique snowflakes, and we love them all, Frank. What got you so turned on? Like, can you remember, was it a person or just that job environment when you got just the light bulb went off for you and you said, continuous improvement is for me? Why is it important to you?
Probably my personality type. I'm driven to do better, as most people are. If we're going to continuously improve, what that means to me is that we're not afraid to try those new things. And we're not afraid to go out on a limb and say, hey, I think this will work better. You're either trying to save time, money, put better work into place. Those are the reasons you want to improve, to ultimately, we're all in the business to make money, right? So those small improvements, can ultimately lead to changes in the bottom line. And so that's why we do it. But you can't be afraid to try new things and to go out there on a limb and say, hey, I've researched this product. We need to figure out how to use it. Oh, well, the architect won't approve that. Well, let's go take it to them and propose it. Because if you're working in an environment where every time that you go to try to do something better, it gets shot down because of risk or whatever, then that's going to demotivate you. Mm-hmm. So I try to stay motivated. When somebody comes to me and says, hey, this might work better, try to encourage them to do that. And that's what, if somebody's struggling with implementing lean or feel like they're up against a wall or something, I would just say, keep pushing against that wall, because don't let any of the negative things keep you from being motivated, because at the end of the day, you're trying to do something better for your company or the client, and you need to make sure that you stay with it, because there will be those times when you're up against a wall and people are not wanting to do the process, or they're not wanting to take the time to evaluate a new product or a new way of doing things. Something as simple as creating a rack for all the pipes to keep them off the floor, right? That's a great idea, but I can't physically do that myself. That's an idea I need to bring to the contractor who has all of his pipes on the floor, right?
Right.
So when I take that idea to them, they give me pushback or whatever, you can't let that demotivate you. You have to make them understand the why behind it, right?
Right.
And then they have to have that aha moment, for themselves. And once they do, it's like a disease. You catch it, and then you can't stop it, and you start to see all of these things. And then you become the improvement guy, right? Or the lean person, and you're always, oh, this can be better, this can be better. Then that's the opposite end of the spectrum, and everybody's tired of you coming around. But it builds. So it starts, it starts small, and then it builds. You start to recognize these things, And then, like for me, going from the point of recognizing the waste and the improvement opportunities, there's another step is to actually making that happen. And that's where a lot of people start to feel like they can't do it or start to feel like it's too much of a challenge. When that happens, because it happened to me a couple weeks ago with something, I felt like, oh, well, I can't implement this right now. When you start to feel that way, just take a small piece of it. Don't try to do the whole thing. And it's kind of like take a small win. Pick something, whatever you see that you can improve or you're trying to get done. Just take a small little piece of that and have success in that, as opposed to trying to go for the whole thing. Whatever it is, the pipe racks and
Sure.
things. I want everything stored nice and neat, right? Well, getting everything stored nice and neat, but if we can just take one piece and say, let's just build one rack and get these pipes on that rack, then that's a start. And then we can attack the next thing. As you're starting, to recognize things that can be improved, and all of a sudden the challenge becomes too daunting, just take a step back and just do just a little piece of it. And that way the team gets a win, and then you celebrate that win, and then you take another small piece. And after a few weeks, a few months, your job's completely different. So that's kind of how I approach it whenever I feel the task is too big or something like that, or the team is too busy fighting fires or something. We just take a small piece and start there.
Super good approach. I remember working with a
Yeah.
team on another coast, the Gold Coast, and they wanted to. They were having a little bit of challenge with site logistics and some stuff, and they said, "Can you just come in and just show people what a neat job looks like NEAT, neat, clean, a clean job?" And specifically, they wanted to do a little 5S. What I like to think about is just can do: cleaning up, arranging, neatness, discipline, ongoing improvement. It's translates exactly to the 5S. So we went in, we bought the guys pizza. I wanted to buy tacos, but I got overruled. So we bought pizza. And we just showed a couple pictures of what, the different things look like. And then the people running our concrete said, no one's ever asked us what we think. Can we show you something in the field? So we walked out in the field, and I asked them, I was like, knowing what you know now, what would you do different? And they started making changes. And that's it. That's all I asked. I didn't tell them what to do. I didn't give them a solution. I said, here's a picture from a job that a lot of people recognize that is pretty popular in our company, and showed some examples of some things that they did. And the job is 100 times the size of what they're doing. They thought, if that giant job can do this, maybe we can do it. So it started really small. The next thing I knew, Frank, they got 2 months ahead of schedule. They sped up just by cleaning up and getting things neat. And then one of them was actually friends with the mayor of the town. And the job was such a shining example. They actually had the mayor come through the job site and tour the job. Yeah. And just everybody in the whole project site was super proud. And we showed pictures to people in the company afterwards. And people were saying, I've never seen a job that clean. It looks like it's done. And they were still in superstructure. So far from done, but making big progress. It's those little things that have such a bbig impact.
That decision just to go out there and just show them a different way. It wasn't, you didn't demand anything from the guys. You just simply, the decision was made just to go out there, just to bring you on and show them a different way. And then those guys were empowered to make it better, because it was like probably a light bulb went off in their head, like, oh, yeah, we can do that on our job too, right?
Right.
And it started small, and then it's just kind of showing them the examples, that makes it work. On a joint venture project in Winter Haven, Florida, we did some things similar to that, and we made some decisions as a team that was questionable. We kind of shut down the ironworkers, for 3 days. because there were some things going on that was dangerous, that, the job wasn't necessarily clean. And that was critical path work, and we made the decision and I knew the guys they can do this stuff because they just came off of a large project, and I knew the crew could do it. But we had to make the decision to shut them down for a couple days, not retrain them, but just remind them of the fact that, hey, let's do these things, and then do what we know you guys can do. And they came back to work, and the speed was increased, the quality was increased. We didn't fail any weld inspections, but we did have to stop. We said, hey guys, something's wrong here. Let's stop. Let's address each situation. And we did. We stopped for a couple days. We talked about everything with the guys that are actually doing the work, not their boss's boss, not any of that stuff.
Sure.
With the crew actually doing the work. And when we started work back up, we called weld inspections. The weld inspector said, "Oh, this is great. You guys are doing much better." The job was clean. We didn't have any near miss safety incidents, and they finished 2 weeks sooner than they thought. And but we had to stop. We had to stop for 2 days. There was some of my bosses didn't understand it at that time. This was a joint venture, yes. So there was other stakeholders involved too, other than my company. But we did. We stopped for 2 days, and at the end of their scope, we were 2 weeks ahead. We didn't have failed and weld inspections. We didn't have safety incidents. It was a good decision that helped in the end. But those are the kind of decisions that you have to make in order for some of this, for the lean thinking to work. That's what it's about. It's about stopping, evaluating the problem, asking what's causing the issue, and then addressing those root causes that are the problems. And when you address the root causes, the same issue doesn't keep happening. You address it there. So sometimes you have to pause and ask those questions.
Glad to hear. That's a great story of respect.
Yeah.
You kept it with the people, most involved, closest to the work.
Right.
You invested, even though you had to stop, you invested 2 days and you got back 10. If you got the inspector saying how much better stuff is, then you're doing the right thing. And now, you probably earned the respect of that crew, and that's going to carry forward. They're going to take those lessons to the next job, and then they might be able to do the same. Somebody might be able to, in the same situation in the future, and be able to prevent a catastrophic incident from happening, loss of life, or someone getting injured, or a building coming in later, because the stuff that we build, Frank, people need it, and we just don't build, even amusement parks. People need amusement, right? So everything we do, it's somebody needs it. There's a benefit out there for what we're making, which is cool. What would you tell somebody that's young, and let's keep it to the field side, because I just love field stories. And I'll tell you about a superintendent cornered me in the field recently. But I want to hear a story from you about what advice or guidance would you give to somebody who's young, up and coming, maybe just a little bit ambitious, healthy amount of ambition, wants to do better, wants to move up. What advice would you give them, Frank?
Go ask questions of the people doing the work. So don't be afraid to go out there in the field and watch. Because that's where I learn the most. You need to go up to those plumbers and go up to the guys hanging the ductwork, and don't be afraid to ask them questions about what they're doing. I learned everything the hard way, but you don't have to do that. You can,
it's optional.
Is
that what you're saying, Frank? It's optional?
To the guys, yes, it's optional.
Okay.
You don't have to learn that way, and you can ask questions. You can seek out those mentors if you're interested in lean and becoming involved in some of those processes, like the last planner system or target value design on the office side, something like that. That's drastically different. You're going to need a lot of mentors to mentor you through that and to give you advice. So I would just tell them to stick with it and act like a sponge, soak up all the information you can from all different sides. Because if you're asking questions and then you're doing your research, you're doing your homework, you'll be successful. So stick with it and ask lots of questions.
Perfect advice. Yeah, I got cornered by a superintendent earlier in my career. He said, I need you just to shut up for a little bit. I got some knowledge. He was about to retire. He's like, I got some knowledge to drop, and I would like some people to pick it up. And he didn't have, next generation coming in. His kids wanted to do something else. And he gave me some really good nuggets about flow. And he talked about workflow and just gave me some stuff. And that was like the knowledge came to me before I was ready to do anything with it. And like you said, don't give up, keep asking more questions. And I learned more, and it's been really, really good. You sound so calm, Frank. I just love that. Is it almost lunchtime for you? What time is it?
Around here, we'll take a break at 9 o'clock and a break at 2 o'clock, and we do the cafecitos, the little coffees.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, they do the Cuban coffee, and we mix it up. And there's a couple guys that make it every day at 9, and just little shots of coffee, espresso, and keeps us going for the day. So
that's awesome. That's perfect, because that leads me to my next thing, Frank. Keeps people going. So I'm sure you can think of people that you've mentored recently. What kind of advice can you share for someone who's listening, who's working in our industry, designers too, design and construction? We don't discriminate. Frank and I love everybody. What would you tell them if they feel like they're stuck?
You have to take action to get you unstuck, right? Yeah. So, if you get stuck in the mud, you're gonna need something to motivate you. So one of the things, I'm on a group of people that I've met, at lean conferences and things like that, or our LCI core group. Something that gets me unstuck is just reaching out to those people, and those monthly calls that we're on, where we share, what we're struggling with or something like that. I don't want to call it a support group, but it's just a group of people that that get together every month. But after those conversations, I kind of get recharged. So if my schedule's still, we're never behind schedule, but if my schedule's still struggling and I'm implementing the last planner, and that's supposed to make us gain on it, and it's not gaining, I'm down in the dumps. I call those people, or those conversations I can have, kind of recharge my batteries and say, okay, it's not working, let's try something different, whatever that may be that helps at the job. But just those conversations with like-minded people in regards to lean and implementing new things on jobs kind of keeps me energized. Conversations like this, with you, Felipe, and when I know that there's a podcast of construction people talking, I'm going to listen to that, and that's going to recharge. My energy to go be better, on the site when I get in those during those downtimes. So
that's awesome, Frank. And it's people like you and having that kind of reaction which fuels me to do this show. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that feedback.
Right.
No, thank you so much. Yeah, all the listeners and all the new fans of Frank, and I'm a Frank fan for sure. We super appreciate, you taking the time to listen to us, and as you're going through your work day and getting a little bit of inspiration, you're giving us inspiration too, because you're out there making it happen. I really like that, Frank, that you said that. One of the things I've told some of the people I mentor is, make some friends outside of your group. Like you had friends in school, you had friends growing up. You might even consider some of your family members friends, heaven forbid. Don't,
maybe.
Right. Maybe. Right. I just encourage them. It's like, talk to somebody you trust and bounce things off of them, even, especially when you're frustrated and things are hard. And it's good sometimes too to tell people like, hey, I don't want your advice, but I just need you to listen. Or sometimes
Yeah.
you want some advice. And I wanted to ask you something I think is going to be funny, and I don't even know why this just occurred to me, Frank, but have you ever gotten some good advice from a project manager? Ever?
All the time. All
Look
the
at that. He
time.
was ready. He was like, I got you, Felipe.
All the
I
time.
could.
But
Is you-
as a
yeah.
superintendent, sometimes we don't listen. We don't listen to those PMs. So they have great advice, but we have to remember to listen to it. Sometimes when they start talking, we just kind of shut off our ears. No. No, I've worked with some really good PMs. Some of them have been key mentors for me, in the early days. People from back like Jeff Ratcliffe was a strong mentor. He was the type of project manager that would walk the job and ask, "Why do I have a pallet of floor leveling product right there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, why is the PM asking me about that? Because it costs a lot of money." So, but no, he would walk the job and he would pick up on things that would make me think as well. So, always search out the people that are going to make you think and make you think from a different perspective. Listen to those PMs. If you're a superintendent, you got to make sure you're listening to them because they'll have a different perspective than what you have. So it should always be a team effort, superintendent PM. Even though they might be like this on the ladder, and my decisions in the field can affect the PM's responsibility, vice versa. The PM's decision can affect the schedule and stuff. So you've got to be a team and treat each other as such. So
Wow, Frank, you just made so many project managers happy right now. And
yeah.
I remember project managers. Frank didn't say that you have to do what the PM says. He said you should listen and try to understand.
And I said sometimes we turn off our listening skills when the PMs are talking. So,
We love you, PMs.
but yeah. But in fact, that's something that I've kind of learned to I seek out their advice because early in my career, I didn't, and I think that blog post that you're going to highlight actually says something about project managers or something like that.
Some knowledge from 2015, still good today.
Right,
Yeah, that was like yesterday for us,
right.
Frank. That was like just yesterday,
Yeah, that's true.
right? It's not even that long ago.
It seems like a long time
It
ago.
does.
My daughter was young and nice, and she still thought, her dad was great, and now she's a teenager, and so she's completely different than when she was 7 and 8. So she's now 16 years old. So, and I just can't picture her merging into traffic and getting on a highway, and that's happening.
My son's 11, and I was telling him earlier this month, I said, one day you're going to have your own kids, and they're going to say stuff to you like you're saying to me right now, and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to break out laughing so hard, and you're going to know why I'm laughing as hard as I'm laughing in that moment because of what you're saying to me right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What goes around comes around.
Absolutely. I
So,
was like, be good to me because one day you'll have little kids of your own. What's something you want to tell, the people listening to the show?
well, I'm glad that there are listeners to this show, and if you do listen to this show and you're in construction, make sure you let other people know because I think some of the guests in the past, there's stories on every construction site, and there's stories of people. There's stories of great things. There's stories of innovation. We need to share those stories. So if you're in our industry and you're working in construction every day, you get up, put on your work boots, and go build things. Make sure you tell people about that. There's a lot of good takeaways, a lot of good leadership lessons that you can learn on the construction sites as well. Don't stop improving and always look for a better way. Make sure you're trying to build a team as well as build whatever project, whatever building you're building. You build that and remember that you're building a team as well. That's what I'll leave you with, Felipe.
Frank Kahn,
Yeah.
dropping the nuggets all the way through. I love it. All the way from the other side of the country, beautiful Florida.
That's it. We got palm trees and Great times over here. So come visit anytime, Felipe.
I will.
Very special thanks to my guest. I'm Felipe Engineer Manriquez. The EBFC show is created by Felipe and produced by a passion to build easier and better. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, everybody. Let's go build.